So the Niners have an issue, right? They spend hella money on wide receivers. And in terms of money, the pecking order is Ayuk, $30 million a year. It's a lot. Debo, $24 million a year. Still a whole lot. Jennings, $8 million a year. A freaking bargain for a wide receiver in the NFL who is 27 and good. Okay, so based on money, Ayuk should lead the team in targets, then Debo, then Jennings. But based on quality, not talent, quality, production, it's pretty clear what the pecking order is a wide receiver on this team. Jennings, 1. Debo, 2. Ayuk, 3. Now, why is Ayuk falling off? Is it 100% his fault? Absolutely not. I'm not really here to blame Ayuk. It's not really about saying, well, it's 73% Ayuk's fault and 17% Brock's fault and 10% Kyle's fault. That doesn't matter. All that matters is that he got the extension and he's not producing. Whoever's fault that is, it's a bad extension and it hurts the team. Like, you know who they should have extended, who also is in a contract year, who's a foundational player and should be on this team for years to come? Diamador Lenore. Diamador Lenore is a better player and a more essential player to this team right now than Ayuk. Maybe if Ayuk were on another team, in another system, in another circumstance, he'd be great again. But on this team, they just don't need him. They have Jennings, they have Kittle, they have Debo. Those guys are all more productive than Ayuk this year, today. Now, it's clever to put Debo at running back a little bit to get them all on the field, but you can't do that too much because Mason's really good. Really good. If the Niners had known that as good as Ayuk is, he would just be wide receiver 3 here, would they have given him all that? No. Can they trade Brandon Ayuk now? Let's see. Brandon Ayuk over the cap. If they trade him post June 1, like now. If they trade him post June 1, they would have $4.6 million in dead cap and they would create $1.1 million in cap space. There probably would be pre-productions down the line, but I would look into it. Because at this point, it seems like he's just taking targets away from guys who are producing. Taking targets away from Jennings, targets away from Kittle, targets away from Debo. Now, maybe you don't make the trade yet because there's a lot of injuries and guys are going down, but God, what if he goes down? I just don't think they need him, and I think trying to force the ball to him isn't helping. And, man, I haven't gone live since the shorts controversy. I started that. Can we talk about the shorts controversy? So I was just filming Juwan Jennings because he's my favorite player, obviously, and he was dancing and stretching and just being great. And I was taking it in, drinking it in with my eyes and my camera. And then he stopped doing stuff, and I was like, come on, Juwan, like, the camera loves you. And then he was just standing there, and then on the side, I saw Kyle talking to Brandon, and I was like, this is officially more interesting than Juwan doing nothing. So I looked over there, and then Kyle, not only was he talking to Brandon, but he was yelling at Brandon, obviously, and he was like gesturing, and he was like, but there was a lot of music, and you couldn't hear the words, but I could tell he wasn't happy because the hand gesture, and then he walked away, and then doubled back. That's when you know someone's pissed, man. When they walk away, and they're like, and another thing. Or it was like Brandon had some like back talky, like, well, I'm not, well, you know, and then he was like, what? That's what it seemed like. And then Kyle was like, yeah, and then that's what it is. And then he walked away, and then Brandon was like, fine. And then he took his pants off, and I was like, dude. Thankfully, he had pants under the pants, and he had his black shorts there, and he put them on, and he threw a little tantrum, and he did a little dance, and he did the hokey pokey, and he kicked his shorts around. And that's what it's all about. I thought he was really entertaining. And embarrassing. You know who's not breaking rules and having tantrums? Debo, Kittle, Jennings, Mason. Ayuk is sort of acting like a guy who is happy that he got his money, but still doesn't want to be here. He looks miserable. And I don't understand why. Maybe money can't buy you happiness. How about that? I'm trying to read some. It seems like he and Kyle Shanahan don't have the best relationship. Is that fair to say? Kyle put him in the doghouse 3 years ago. Brandon is petty and never forgave him. Then Brandon got to like get revenge this offseason and get one up on Kyle. Makes more money than Kyle. But it seems like what Brandon, the pattern that he created this offseason that the Niners reinforced is that he's above the team. Rules don't apply to Brandon, right? Like, Trent Williams held out. He paid the fines. He handled the whole thing like a grown-up. I'm not talking. I'm not showing up. Whatever you want to find me, fine. We're going to work this out. Handled like a grown-up. Brandon, he didn't hold out. He held in. Why'd he hold in? He didn't want to pay the fines. So he worked this little middle ground where, like, I'm not practicing, but I'm here, but I don't have to practice, but I'll show up. And it's like, you're not doing anyone a favor by watching practice or going to meetings. Hold out like a man. Hold out like Trent. Take the fines. But he didn't. He hung around. He tried to avoid the fines. And then he had his little spectacle where he'd be there and he would, like, just his presence alone would overshadow whatever the hell happened on the field that day. And God forbid he walked up to the coach and did something like that's national news. So he kind of made this precedent, like, I can do whatever the hell I want. Oh, everyone else has to practice. I don't have to practice, and I'm not going to get fined. And I'm going to go up to the coach and give him a dab when he's not even doesn't even see it coming. I can do whatever the hell I want. And so now he's, pushed the envelope a little bit further. He knows the rules. He's been on the team. He knows the rules. He knew he wasn't allowed to do it. And he thought, Kyle's not going to say shit. What's he going to say? He ain't going to say shit. He did, though. So, Kyle, good for you. Because if you let that slide, who knows what's next? And it seems like these guys are don't really respect your authority right now. Or at least one guy doesn't. So I couldn't help but notice early on in the game, they went to Ayuk early. Clearly he was in the script, get Ayuk the ball so he stays engaged in the game. And they gave him the ball. And that was it pretty much for him that day. He had one more catch. It was a nice diving catch. Again, he's not bad. He's just not essential to this offense, to this team. He's third in the pecking order. Deommodore Lenoir is more essential to this team moving forward. But Lenoir won't be here next year, and Ayuk will. And they're still going to be trying to justify ways to get on the ball when they don't need to. They don't freaking need to. If Ayuk didn't play next week, the offense might be even better. That'd just be more opportunities for George Kittle. More opportunities for Jennings. More opportunities for Kyle Juszczyk. He's great, by the way. Such a good player. I do think it's really funny that, like, life is funny. You don't want to talk too much shit because God has a really funny, like, sense of humor. And this guy, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, this guy, Brandon, was talking all offseason about how he's the number one option. He's tired of taking a back seat. It's like, you're tired of taking a back seat. Just wait until you're taking a back seat to Jawan Jennings, dog. You thought you were embarrassed before? Wait till you get outshined consistently week in and week out by a former 7th round pick who's making $8 million a year. Just wait. You didn't like taking a backseat to Christian McCaffrey? Just wait. And I got to say, of all the players on the team who've been affected most by Christian's absence, I got to say Ayuk's number one. Ayuk's been a good player since he got drafted, but he had 1 year of dominance. It was last year when Christian was on the team. And now he ain't dominant anymore. He went from a guy who would catch like 55, 60% of his targets to like 75%. That's the Christian McCaffrey effect. When opposing defenses, when their number one concern is covering the check down, dude, the guy who runs the 15-yard route is gonna dominate. But now that the number one concern of the other team isn't stopping a check down, like, Ayuk looks regular. And the wide receiver who's stepping up is the guy who makes contested catches. Juwan, how many contested catches can you remember Brandon making in his freaking career? Like, he's made catches with bodies around him, but like, go up and get the ball away from someone, snag it away from someone. Jennings does it every game. Debo doesn't do it, but he's one of the greatest yak players ever. Ayuk is just like a good route runner who's fast but not super fast and strong but not super big. Like, he's a nice all-around, well-rounded wide receiver, but he doesn't give you yards after the catch, and he doesn't seem all in with the team, and he seems disengaged, and he seems miserable, and he wears the wrong shorts. So other than that, he's worth the money.